Yes, Advocate Semenya.
Chairperson, Madam Commissioner, thanks for the indulgence. We have tried to thresh out some common position, but unfortunately not with success. We invited Sari and ICF to draft what they say they can live with. They have done so. We have shared it with you, Chair.
Okay. Mr. Tobakale.
Justice, Commissioner? Yes, we have indeed. So I confirm what Mr. Semenya said. We have tried to agree wording. Yes, and the last we understood was that it was going to be shared with you. So
Yes.
yes,
It appears to me that you cannot find each other
yes,
on a very simple issue like this one.
yes.
How come you cannot find each other? Where are the difficulties, if you can point them out to me?
Okay. Well, I'll start with the practical one, Justice, which is that I think we are disagreeing. I mean, I'm not sure there are reasons of disagreement with what we've prepared, but I think the disagreement is about at which point should the media seek the permission.
Yes.
The
Common
way-
areas.
Yes, Justice. But the way we phrased it, and it's for purposes of certainty, is that once we get to a building and there's an entrance, and now we're going to come in, what we've proposed, the wording we've proposed, is that that's where the permission to start filming, etc., in the common areas.
But why should
be
it
sought.
be the entrance? Because we are protecting the privacy of the occupiers.
That is so, Justice.
Yes.
It's the entrance because, and I think we were discussing that aspect of it, it's a practical thing, is that these buildings are not all the same. And for some of them, you will find that when you get to, just as you enter, there's someone living there. Or as you get to the entrances, someone might be living there too. And the toilets, even inside the building, may be right in front of that entrance. Now, if we're talking about cameras and videos, when someone is standing at the door and they're taking this footage, there's no limitation of it. So at a practical level, it would seem to us, Justice, fair that as soon as we get to the entrance, not the gate, but at the door, when you get to the entrance, then that's where the permission ought to function. So when you're outside the building, you haven't entered, the media can do whatever it likes without the need for that permission, unless, of course, they're required
Yes.
by other regulations. Yes.
But I think common areas should really be understood to be common areas. You are making an example of the fact that someone might be living at the entrance.
That is so.
As I
Justice,
understand
in some
it.
of these buildings, yes.
How feasible is that?
It's a practical, factual thing, Justice. So these buildings you're going to see, as I say, not all of them are the same. So some are high-rise buildings, some are in the form of houses. They all come differently, and they don't. And I think that's part of the reason why there's an inspection into them and there's a commission, is that they don't necessarily conform to our general notions of what a place to live looks like. So there are those considerations. And as I say, if you think about where the kitchen is in relation to where the entrance is in some of these buildings, when someone is there with a camera and they are filming or taking without consent, you might be capturing someone as they have a bucket of water to go flush the toilet that doesn't have water. So there are those considerations, and that's why it would make sense. Normally, when you get into a house or whatever it is, you knock at the door. And I think at a practical level, it's simply to say, once we are at the door, so they can film, do whatever outside, but as soon as we get to the door, maybe then that's where the permission
But the
issue
entrance
should-
seems to be taking it too far, Mr. Tobakale. I have yet to come to a building that I have inspected so far where the entrance was most likely to be the space that is habited by an occupier. I have yet to come to such a situation. In any case, I've heard you on that one.
Yes,
Let
yes,
me
yes.
hear Mr. Singh. Yes.
Can I just one other thing, and it's a practical thing. It's about the fact that this ruling also ideally ought to be certain. In other words, what we would also like to avoid is, because as we say these buildings are different, is a ruling that would result in a situation where with every building, we have to now start debating the parameters of where to start, whereas the door to any dwelling could be a simple place to begin.
Yes.
That's all. Just.
Thank you. Mr. Siminya.
Yeah, Chairperson, Madam Commissioner. I think there is appreciation on all sides that the buildings we are to inspect differ in terms of their configuration. But a ruling that reads at the entrance will be understood by the public media to say they can't do anything. And we have tried to say you can't put it in such tones that would exclude the public media. At least I don't think the Commission has those powers to suppress media rights on an inspection involving the probing of the living conditions of those occupiers. It's not a broad thing. It's a very specific mandate in Part 2A, Chair. Those are our submissions.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Tobakala, I dare say there is no reply to that argument.
There shouldn't be, Justice, but I'm tempted.
Yes. I am tempted to also say we are talking of an exception rather than the general, that people will be occupying entrances as spaces of dwelling. And my ruling is going to indicate that. But this is a ruling of a commission. This is not a court of law. Should such instances occur, you are free to come back to the commission to raise its alertness to the fact that most of the dwellings that we would have inspected include areas of habitable spaces. I mean, this is not a court of law. So this ruling is not cast in stone.
Might I say, Justice, before the ruling is made, you see, the authorities that were cited in the heads around privacy, they were all dealing with a situation where a warrant is required to enter somewhere. And a lot of them were dealing with defining what the right to privacy means. And they were speaking about a home environment. And I think that's why I was saying there's no need for a reply, but I must just say, because the home environment would include where someone enters to get into that home. So I would just say that. And if Justice has seen the submissions, there's also a question about whether or not the media, as of right, is entitled to go into these homes for purposes of this inspection, which is, by and large, an inspection of the Commission, and where whatever the Commission does and finds will be made available to the media. And then the last thing is simply to say, of course, that order as or the ruling as we have cast it is saying subject to permission. And I don't think the position is that none of the occupiers will ever give the permission to the media. It's simply to say they should have that right to say, yes, you can come, or no, you can't. That will be all, Justice.
Yes, thank you. Having heard the application by SERI for the relief framed in their notice of application, and the position of the evidence leader regarding that application, it has consent been agreed that the following ruling be made. 1, the Commission will not permit or enable the conduct of the inspections in loco in violation of anyone's rights to privacy and dignity protected under our Constitution. 2, any videography or photography, be it by the Commission's recording platform or public media, can only be done in compliance with paragraph 1 above. 3, any images and or recordings of the building occupants, including children, that are to be published must be blurred so that the identities are not compromised. 4, the Commission will provide reasonable notice of properties it will be inspecting with the relevant date of inspection. And with regard to the issue whether consent should first be sought from the occupiers for images and or recordings of the common areas inside the buildings by the public media, as well as public media, I hereby rule as follows. In that regard, having heard the argument presented by Mr. Tobakale and the evidence leader advocate Siminya, that images and or recordings of the occupiers and any of the occupiers abode, including the individual rooms of occupiers, which shall include common areas without the inclusion of entrances, can only be taken with the approval of the occupiers. That is my ruling.
As the Commission pleases.
The proceedings are adjourned. Are we able to indicate when we are doing our next inspection?
That's the short meeting I'm going to be having with the parties that are here. But we intend to do that tomorrow, Judge.
By tomorrow?
By tomorrow, yes.